Okay, everybody, welcome to the channel. So today we are going to get into Act 5.3.1. This will be the first video in our pursuit for Cavalier on the backup account. We are going to go ahead and look at the level itself, the global node, discuss the mini bosses, the boss who you're going to fight on the path, and the two different strategies that you can use for getting through this level and pretty much every level for the next few. Right off the bat here, you're going to see that Mordo is our boss for this level. We are going to have no path nodes. The team I brought in here was Mystic focused, with the exception of Quake, who was obviously brought in specifically for Mordo, but she does play a role on a few other occasions. Right off the bat here, the biggest thing that you need to worry about is the Ancient Knowledge global node. Now, what this does is it reduces the attack, the base attack of all champions who are not Mystic. So any champion that you bring in that is not a Mystic champion is going to have reduced based attack. Now, this is where I said there's two different strategies to go with here. The strategy I chose was to go with a primarily Mystic team. Now, obviously, if we were over on the main account, going with a primarily Mystic team, I walked through this without a problem. This goes without a hitch whatsoever. But over here on the backup account, we don't have nearly as deep of a roster, and what we do have is not leveled up as much. So I'm playing with some champions I'm not necessarily used to, so we do have some hiccups here. But that does give you where you have a second option here, which is to just go with your top champions and shoot for class advantage. Depending on where you're at in your roster, either strategy can be valuable, because if you go class advantage, you're going to negate quite a bit of that reduced attack, based attack anyways, and you're going to get pretty close to where your champion would be regularly with no boost, no advantage, no anything. So that's something to keep in mind, whichever strategy works best for you, depending on whether or not you have the resources to level yourself up a decent Mystic team or not. Now, the second thing I am going to point out here is going forward after this particular level. I did go through and level up a few of the champions that get featured in this level that had not been. And I also go through and adjust the masteries on this account because they had not been touched in a while. And I finally had the units to go spend to buy the cores to unlock a few things like willpower that had not been addressed yet. So we will have a rework going through after this, but for this particular level, we're still using a very modest setup on our masteries, and some of the champions, especially like Quake, are not leveled up nearly as much as she needs to be. So after that, so from the start here, you're going to fight Punisher, which the only thing ever to worry about Punisher on is obviously he has a lot of range in his attacks because a lot of his attacks are projectile based, but also on top of that, you need to worry about that last moment where you do bring him down to that 1% health and he becomes indestructible for 15 seconds, and then after that, you can finish him off. So do keep that in mind. That's the only big thing there. From here, you're going to go on to Cable, and then Karnak, Electro, Hood, Miss Marvel, Jane Foster, Groot, Ant-Man, Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan, Superior Iron Man, who is actually going to benefit you by taking this side because it is going to remove the Plague-Minded Link node off of Mordo. Now, with that gone, you don't have to worry about the fact that you're going to be losing your power every 30 seconds. So that is actually useful. The other node on link node on the path that you can take, keep in mind that there's only 2 paths that you can take if this is your first time through, because you have to earn keys to be able to unlock the other paths, and you do that over the corresponding next few levels, and each time you're taking a path you unlock more keys. Now we do after that come up here to the 2 mini bosses right before Mordo, the first one being OG Black Widow. The two things to keep in mind with her is she does have enhanced abilities as well as enhanced crits. So she's going to be hitting a lot harder than normal, and she's going to trigger her effects a bit faster. So do keep that in mind and be more aware and be more mindful. Maybe play the match a little conservative, but she's still a fairly easy champion to get through. Now, with Storm over here as your second mini boss, she has enhanced abilities, and then she also has a direct damage effect, causing a loss of your health of 1.6% per second throughout the duration of the fight. So there are a couple things to keep in mind there. Also keep in mind that Storm has amazing range, and if she hits you with the shock, especially with enhanced abilities, you've got a very good chance that you're going to go down quickly. So possibly look at a shock immune champion, or just try and play this one a little on the safe side. Be careful as far as how aggressive you get, and chunk her down. Lastly, we're going to go up here to the Mordo fight. Now, the biggest things here is, like I said, he has one or two link notes that you're going to pull off of here, which is either Enhanced Fury or the Plague Minded. Obviously, we're taking the Plague Minded off of there, so the only thing you have to worry about on him is the Enhanced Fury, and then obviously the Ancient Knowledge. So typically, if you're bringing in science champions, you want to make sure they're high level. You've got them ready to be actually doing this fight. So it's a debate on whether or not you go with your best science champion for this fight, or your best mystic, so that you can do the most possible damage on this. But there are so many great science champions options out there. If you've got a really good science champion, you can deal with this without having to worry about the ancient knowledge. If not, just go with your best mystic champion, and you can finish him off fairly simply. Do keep in mind that you never want to hit him while he's stunned. That's the only key to really fighting Mordo. Other than that, it's a straightforward fight. This is an easy level. Let's go ahead and look at it. We'll see. I made a few mistakes here. Part of it being the fact that I'm not used to fighting with America Chavez or Diablo yet. So outside of that, and then there was a couple times here where I did screw up and didn't take into consideration that I couldn't poison somebody with voodoo. Otherwise, it's fairly straightforward, so let's get into the fights, guys. Okay, so like I said, right off the bat here, we got the Punisher fight. The biggest thing about this level, honestly, has less to do with the difficulty of the fights. I mean, obviously, small screw-ups like that there where I didn't get into the heavy so that I could miss the barrage of bullets will cost you some. But as far as that, for the most part, if you have some good Mystic champions that you feel comfortable with, this is a fairly easy level. The only thing that you really have to take into consideration here is that it is a decent amount of fights comparatively to some of the other levels that you'll face. We are looking at 11 champions on the path, plus 2 mini bosses and the boss, so you're looking 14 fights in total to get through this. But none of these are going to be big deals as far as taking down. Most of these are champions that either A, have not had a massive rework, or they're champions who have not been reworked whatsoever since their release. This is not your most difficult path by any means. These are not hard champions to go against here. Another example of a screw up I made here is far too often when I went to put the Spirit Venom on Karnak here, I screwed up and didn't make sure that I was doing it, landing it on an odd number of the combo. So instead of getting the max potential of stacks on him and taking him down quickly, I ended up just eating it, trickling him down little by little because I was only getting the one at a time. Then we went into the Electro fight here. Now, Electro was one that gave us more difficulty than just about anybody. First off, because he does have the class advantage against Mystics, so I'm already at a disadvantage here. This would have been a good opportunity to have brought in a good skill champion. On this account, it would have been our Aegon, and we could have probably got through this fairly simply. just by, having a high leveled up skill champion. We did go ahead and resort to Quake here, figuring if we could keep him off of us, we didn't have to worry about getting electrocuted, which is one of the things that was eating us alive with our Mystic champions. But all in all, I wasn't able to get it nearly as good as I normally can. Again, Quake on this account was not really leveled up. I believe even going into this, I think she may have been rank 3. And obviously unawakened. So I know I did bring her up to at least rank 4 going forward. So if you see her again in other levels, she's going to have more use. This is another one of those fights that, again, you see right there with Tigra. I had every opportunity under the sun to jump right into that heavy, and his projectiles could have never touched us. But instead of doing that, I went ahead and slipped up, and he caught us. Then turn around and let him do it again with Dr. Voodoo there. But at the same time, still took out most of his life. Was able to come right back in with Tigra and finish him off so quickly that we barely even saw it there. And right over into the Miss Marvel fight. This is, again, another projectile fight. Want to make sure that you're looking at every possibility here and getting on top of that. Again, guys, it's just a good Mystic team or your top champions, whichever one. There's no real trick to these. The ancient power is the only thing to worry about whatsoever. And these fights go by really quickly, really straightforward. Most of these champions should be ones that by this point you're fairly used to. You should have seen them several times in several different modes. There are better champions in the Mystic class to be able to go through this path with, other than, the way I did it. Tigra obviously is going to be a top 3 choice no matter what, no matter where you actually rank her. But like for the group fight here, Loki would have been normally my choice here. Again, we get into Ant-Man, who has that class advantage. So this is another opportunity that if we'd brought Aegon in, we could have went ahead and probably walked through this fight a lot faster. It's not that difficult of a fight, even with that base attack reduction. Aegon can overcome that with class advantage and then building up the combo. So that is something that we'll probably look at in some of the later levels. But I wanted to start off with, right off the bat, just going with the straight Mystic strategy, because it is a very viable and valid strategy to go with. Almost got Ant-Man down there. You can see that. Finished him off with Dr. Voodoo here because there just wasn't anything. I did drag out the second Ant-Man fight with Dr. Voodoo just a little extra. And I'm doing the same thing here with Kamala Khan. Mostly because I do have that started the fight regen that Dr. Voodoo has. And having access to that saves me a little bit on potions and revives. Obviously, we did revive and use a few potions here and there. Wasn't that big of a deal because we already had several of them expiring. So it was a good time to use them if we were going to anyways. Now, with Kamala here, like I said, not that big of a fight. Took us a little bit. We did get caught right at the end and left her with very little energy. So we went ahead and brought in one of her teammates here in America Chavez to finish her off. At this point, I've got Tigra and Dr. Voodoo down. So going into the Superior Iron Man fight, I got class advantage, and I don't have to worry about the Mystic knowledge the ancient knowledge because of the fact of having a Mystic champion. So we went ahead and finished off Superior Iron Man. Tried to again get a feel for Diablo and America Chavez because I hadn't used them very much. Was able between the two of them to get Superior Iron Man and get into the Black Widow fight here. I'm gonna go ahead and take America Chavez, last possible champ. up against Black Widow here. And I do believe we get most of it done, but did not finish her, so it was a great time to revive and bring in the go-to champs. Tiger is able to finish her off straightforward. The only fight that we're really going to have a problem with here outside of the Electro fight is going to be this fight against Storm. And I did quite a bit against her, but with that degen on, coming in without full health was not a great idea. The health gain did help with us on that to a point, but it didn't necessarily take care of everything we were looking at. So she was able to catch us, and especially off that special 2. Not a big deal. We were able to, it did took us a little extra, but we came in and took care of it. Like I said, I brought Quake in for the Mordo fight because Mordo is my favorite fight to do with Quake, because it is that thing of you don't want to be hitting him while he's stunned, but Quake doesn't need to hit anybody anyways. And as a matter of fact, the best thing in the world is how much she can stun him and pin him. But we didn't have Quake nearly leveled up enough to be able to do what I needed to do. So taking a few hits off of him was more than enough to turn around and put us at a major disadvantage. But we got most of him down between the first 2 attempts with Quake, and just brought in Tigra to finish him off here. He does catch me a few times here, but as you can see, I'm able to get off of him and get right back in there, and we finish it off. And there you guys go. That is 5.3.1 for our first attempt through and our first clear. It's going to be a fairly good one that you want to make sure you guys get a chance to get in there and get it done. And we will see you back for the next one with 5.3.2. So we're going to push that Cavalier, guys. Join me along. Let's all get it together. And then you guys already have Thronebreaker waiting. Paragon will be starting to release out tomorrow. So we'll be doing both Cavalier and Paragon at the same time. So join me back for those, and I will see you back then. Peace out.